Okay, welcome to lesson 15 of the Russian Revolution Guide. And today we're going to look at the impact of war communism. Okay, we've just looked at what it actually was. Now we're going to look at how it had this impact. We're going to look at three groups. It won't take very long. We'll look at some keywords, okay? So we're going to look at what happens to the workers. Remember, these are the rank and file. These are the people that the communists are trying to really act on behalf of. Yeah, if anyone is communist, it's the factory workers. So let's see how this war communism works out for them. Well, for starters, the war communism actually prioritizes the army for obvious reasons. They're the ones fighting the civil war. They need the food, they need the materials to fight that war. So that means that actually the factory workers are not getting what they need. So despite the fact that communism is being done on behalf of the workers now find themselves without much food. And many of them just get up and leave. Right? Remember, most of these workers came from the countryside anyway to look for work, to find jobs in the city. Now many of them just go home. They get up and they leave. I mean, this is a huge number here. Moscow's population falls by 3/4 during the Civil War because people there's no food in the city. All the food's being sent to the army. So why would you work in a factory job and starve? People don't want to do that, so they start to move back to the countryside. And there are shortages, right? Because all the factories are making stuff for the war. People aren't making stuff for people, yeah, for normal everyday shops. People are not making shoes and clothes and kitchenware and furniture that people want on a day-to-day, weekly, normal society would need, right? So those items that do exist like that start to be sold for quite expensive, quite high prices on the black market, which is kind of completely the opposite to what war communism was trying to achieve. It was trying to make a communist society, but instead it creates this huge black market where people are buying and selling goods and basically being little mini capitalists wherever they can. But really, for the Russian people, and for the Bolsheviks in a way, they need to be thankful, grateful that there was this black market, because it was through this unofficial mini capitalist underground system that 70% of the city's food was provided for. So without that black market, people really do start to starve in great numbers, but it's they turn to the black market to keep them going. Right, agricultural workers, well, things do not work out very well here. All the food they grow has to go to the army and the cities. Fine. They are given little choice. So everything they grow has to go to the Bolsheviks, who then share it out to wherever they want it to go. So there's no profit to be made here. So there's no incentive to work. So the food production goes down. And the Bolsheviks respond by sending out groups of soldiers and groups of party workers into what are called requisitioning brigades. And these people were not very nice at all. They left the cities out into the countryside, and they had requisition targets. They were told, right, on this expedition into the countryside, your brigade must raise X amount of grain, right? Say 100 tons of grain. And if you don't get 100 tons of grain, you're going to be in trouble. So don't return to the city until you've got that. And if you get it, you'll be rewarded. So these brigades go out into the countryside. They talk to the farmers. I say talk. They threaten the farmers to give them as much grain as possible. They just take it from them and take it back to the cities. So what starts to happen is when the farmers see the requisitioning brigades rock up in their area, they start to hide away the food that they've grown, the farm animals that are on their farm, anything that could be stolen, basically, by the requisitioning brigades. They try to hide away to pretend they don't have, so the brigades can't take it. There are stories of even many farmers would actually rather kill their own animals and destroy their own produce than hand it over for free. They thought that the Bolsheviks were stealing from them, and as an act of defiance to fight back against the Bolsheviks, they rather destroy their own crop than to hand it over. So then what happens is this key word here in Soviet Russia, the kulaks, okay? The kulaks are what the communists come to call the rich farmers. The rich farmers that are hiding away all their stuff so the requisitioning brigades can't get it. Obviously, this did happen, and there were rich farmers, but kulaks becomes a name for basically anybody in the countryside that tries to stop the requisitioning brigades, whether you were rich or not, whether you were hiding your one and only cow behind a shed, or whether you're trying to hide a whole field full of produce from them, and you're quite wealthy. You will get caught up in with the same title. Kulak was basically an enemy of the Bolsheviks, anyone that was trying to stop the requisitioning brigades. And the requisitioning brigades at this point turn nasty. They go hunting for kulaks, and when they find them, they drag them out of their houses, they steal all their stuff, often burn their houses to the ground, and execute them in public, leaving their bodies to rot in the public squares of these small little countryside villages and towns, so that every other kulak could see the price they would pay if they dared hide produce from the Bolsheviks. Needless to say, this wasn't a very effective system. Yeah, farmers didn't want to work hard to grow stuff that was just going to be stolen from them, and farmers became very upset, obviously, to see their neighbors being shot and killed and left to rot in the public square. So the farmers are not particularly happy with the Bolsheviks, and they're not working particularly hard. So it's a self-defeating system. The food shortages become worse and worse and worse as this goes on. And they're also it's counterproductive for them in the cities, because all the workers are having to leave the cities because there's no food there. So really fighting this war, using war communism, is, the communists and the Russians and the Bolsheviks are paying a very, very heavy price for this system, which is why it does get replaced. And we'll look at that in the next couple of sessions.